Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Conference of the Oppressed. I was invited in by Malik Shabazz, the head of Black Lawyers for Justice, and the new Black Panther Party, and he asked me to come through to join in an event that I was okay with because I respect Malik, I respect what he does, I respect the fact that there are a lot of us. There's a growing tribe of people, not just black, not just white, just all kinds of people who understand the political trickery of the Democratic Republican parties, and so I'm glad to be here, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. And as you know, I always tell the truth about what I think, and some people like it, some people don't, but it is what it is. And so I wanted to talk about something that I just witnessed. I just watched a clip from uh, Wendy Williams and Roland Martin debating with each other on their show, on Wendy's show. I saw that Roland apparently Wendy had made some unfortunate remarks about HBCUs, kind of basically saying what you really hear a lot of white folks say. You hear a lot of white folks say that HBCUs don't matter and that they're racist, and that if you're gonna have if you're gonna have a historically black university, why don't you have historically white universities? Things like that, things that are just pretty much silly, things that no person that understands the history of this country would ever say. But at the same time, it was an interesting debate because I know Wendy and I know Roland. I've known them both for quite a few years. In fact, it was really interesting to see those two together, because actually, when I think about it, one of my first major CNN appearances actually was with Wendy and Roland in 2006, and we were talking about Oprah and 50 Cent and stuff like that. So it's crazy to still see them doing great things 10 years later. I love Roland's show. I love what Roland does because I think Roland's one of the few people in the public sphere who really speaks to what black people are thinking about. He's really got his finger on the pulse of the black community. He does a really good job with his show on News One now. He brings in a lot of black people that you wouldn't see in mainstream media, and so a lot of his work is quite good. Now, one thing I can also say about Roland from knowing him as a brother is I already know for a fact that no matter how many compliments I give Roland, Roland is extremely sensitive. So the nature of the way I discuss things is I discuss things the way we do things in academia. The way you do things in academia is that you never give anybody 100% perfection. You never say, oh, well, they're perfect in everything they do. You always see the great things they do, and then you see the things that could be done better. And you mention all of that. So, for example, in academia, you can present the best research paper in history, and somebody will always critique it, not because they want to mess with you, but because they want the paper to be better. They want to help you do the best work you can, and you learn not to take that personally. So I already know, I'm going to tell you the truth, me and Roland don't have the best relationship, largely because Roland gets very sensitive and offended, when I disagree with him, and I'm just like, hey, brother, I'm sorry, man, but I can't. I love you and I'm gonna support you. I got your back 100%, but I'm not gonna sit here and just agree with things I don't agree with. My goal is to tell the truth and do the best I can, to be honest. And even I can even critique myself, and I'm okay when other people do it too, as long as you're not being malicious about it, and if you really want to understand how to deal with criticism. Minister Farrakhan, actually, when we had a conversation about 3 years ago, when we sat together for 3 hours, it was me and the minister and one other person, and the person was kind of with me. She was just kind of there, kind of listening. And one of the things I remember learning from him is that you can learn a lot from your critics. He mentioned that there was Julianne Malveaux used to criticize the hell out of him, and he said that made him better. It made him smarter. It helped him realize areas where he could improve. So again, I don't know if Roland sees things that way, and that's probably why we don't have the best relationship. Because a couple years ago, I wrote an article where I basically said, I think Roland should have apologized for the mistake he made when he was with CNN, and he said those things that I think were homophobic. Again, the gay rights fight is not really my fight, to be honest with you. I'm not gay. I care about what's going on just with the black community, and I feel that the president really fought heavily on the gay rights issue. That's why they named him the first gay president in Newsweek, and so we got enough people fighting on that front. I fight on the front of black people. So if you're gay, you're not gay, then that's okay. I'm not real concerned with what you do in the bedroom. bedroom. I'm not going to judge you one way or the other. But long story short, that's where we kind of fell out, was just with the gay thing and a couple other disagreements. So I don't know how Roland would take any of this. In fact, I would be hesitant to really even talk about it in detail in any way other than complimentary. But it is what it is. I'll just tell you what I think. So here's what I thought as I was watching this. My impression of Wendy and Roland is that they are two of the best black commentators in the country. They are very, very good at what they do. I've been on Wendy's show. I was on Wendy's show 6 times when she did radio. And to this day, those are the best radio interviews anybody has ever done. The closest I've come to is maybe The Breakfast Club, which has Charlemagne, who learned from Wendy. And if you want to know why Charlemagne's successful, I believe it's because he was next to Wendy all those years, because Wendy is good. Wendy's very, very sharp, very, very bright, very, very good. I mean, she's overcome so much. When she was in New York, she got in some stuff and they booted her out and tried to destroy her, and she still rose back to the top because the woman is talented. There's no question about it. And she knows how to run the flow of the interview. Like, I was on the Tom Joyner morning show, and it wasn't. I'm not going to diss Tom. I'm not even going to say nothing about it. But I remember walking away kind of feeling like I wish I could have said more. I wish it could have gone differently. I'll just say that much. I'm not going to go into. One day we'll have that conversation later, but I'm not going to go into that. So Wendy was one of the best viewers I've ever worked with. Roland impresses the hell out of me because Roland has spoken on issues that other people don't talk about. Like, a lot of people don't remember this. This was back before black people got woke, before black people really started getting black again. But back when President Obama, some of you may remember this, when he put that lady on the Supreme Court, not Sonia Sotomayor, it was the Elena Kagan from Harvard. At that time, they were trying to get black people to play along like sheep. Again, there's a lot of manipulation, a lot of political manipulation you don't know about that occurs because they're like, well, black people worship Obama, so whatever Obama wants them to do, they're going to do it. And Elena Kagan is about as racist as they come when it comes to her hiring record. She was at Harvard University, and this lady, for 6 years as the dean, didn't hire a single black person. Didn't hire a single Latino person. Didn't hire a single Native American person. She made 32 hires, and 30 of them were white males. One of them was a white woman. The other one was Asian. So I said, this lady's a bigot. And there was a group of black law professors who wrote an article about this, and Roland was that guy who helped bring it to the national media. And I did too. I assisted him on this because I was going on MSNBC and some other networks talking about it. And the White House kept calling me, and I eventually got to the point where I just hung up the phone and I said, don't call me no more. Like, y'all are not calling me to have a conversation, a two-way dialogue. You're calling me because you think you can manipulate me, and I don't like that. I don't like when people try to play with my head. That's not a good way to get on my good side. So anyway, so Roland was the only voice that was out here, doing this. And I think in that way, Roland is very authentic, in terms of really being just what the black community needs as far as newscasters go. I think everybody should support his show. But one thing that's interesting is that I thought that Wendy, when she made these comments about HBCUs, as you know, she made the comment basically kind of saying that why don't we have historically white universities and stuff like that. I felt like she was incredibly humble about, her mistake. I mean, I was so impressed with her humility. I mean, she was just like, look, I was wrong. Let me bring you on the show so we can talk about why I was wrong. I can apologize to you in front of everybody. I thought that was as gracious as they come. And she had to be a big woman to do that. God bless her for that. But I will say that Roland could learn from that. I've seen a couple of times, most of the time when Roland and I debate, Roland can't be wrong. Roland won't really, maybe you can tell me where I'm wrong, but I rarely see situations where Roland comes out and says, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I humble myself. I need to be educated. I don't really see that humility. I don't see that. I mean, every debate we had, we would text back and forth. And I got to the point, I was like, man, I'm not even going to text this dude no more because every point that I make, he's coming back. He's Dame Dash. Dame Dash does that too. And I love Dame. See, this is just tells you how I can even critique people I love. I critique my mama. Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X are my two greatest leaders of all time, my greatest heroes of all time. I've critiqued them, but I've also pointed out the good things they do. So with Dame, one of the things that Dame and I deal with when we're working on this movie and we're working on the class, is I say, hey, brother, how come whenever we talk, you're never wrong? How come you talk about your opinion as if it's fact? I state my opinion as what it is. It's an opinion. Most of the time, if you follow me, you see where I will say things and I'll say, look, this is my 2 cents. This is something for you to consider, because I believe that the strength of an intellectual argument should be able to stand on its own without you feeling that you have to bully somebody to buy into your philosophy or out yell them or you're wrong and let me tell you why you're wrong. You don't have to do all that. Just state your point of view. Have a conversation. Be intellectual. Don't think that because somebody disagrees with you that they're your enemy. And I think to this day, I don't know. I just know that Roland has been very distant from me for a long time, and I think it's because he sees me as an adversary, which is fine. I don't need to be on his show. I was invited on a few times, and I think I was on it once or twice a while back. And then the other times I declined because we both busy. He's got stuff going to do. I got stuff to do, and I love him. I support it entirely. But I will say that I think I would encourage him to gain that same humility, because when you push for that, I think what you do is you get to the point where you understand that we're kind of in a battle as a community where it ain't about one person having the biggest personality in the room, or one person having the biggest spotlight in the room, or one person kind of being the diva or the big shot, the big leader, where I'm in front of everybody and everybody's looking at me and following me and giving me the attention. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I know that my platform matters. I know that people need to. I know that you need to have a platform to get your voice heard, and that's what I do. We build our platform constantly because we believe in the importance of Black people getting their own media. But if you notice, if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see where I share that page with a lot of people. And Roland does some of that too. Like Roland brings guests on his show and stuff like that too. So I'm not saying he doesn't do that, but I would generally say that overall, the idea of Black leadership has to shift. We've got to get away from personalities. We've got to get away from looking at somebody as if they are somehow better than the rest of us, some kind of God, and that we're supposed to follow this God wherever they go. Because some of these leaders you got out here are flawed people. Some of these leaders you got out here are no better than you. But unfortunately, because our self-esteem is so low, we're easily pimped. You think about it. A pimp doesn't look for a prostitute that has high self-esteem. A pimp doesn't look for a prostitute who's highly educated. A pimp doesn't look for a prostitute who's empowered or who's confident or who's got resources. Pimps look for that low self-esteem girl who never got love from her daddy, who isn't very well educated, who is addicted to drugs, who is scared of her own shadow, who will hang on his every word and be easily persuaded by fast talk and smooth action. That's what a pimp looks for. And that's why Black people get pimped, because we got a whole lot of pimps up in the pulpit. We got Black leaders, some are in the church, some are outside the church, who basically realize, like, hey, if I say things a certain way and I make my words rhyme and I'm dressed fly and I walk around like I'm the king of the earth or whatever and tell you I'm a God, you're going to act like I'm a God. You're going to treat me that way. And I'll tell you what, it ain't healthy. It ain't good for our people. It's not going to get us. It's not going to get us where we want to get to as a community. It's not going to make us stronger. It's going to make us weaker. It's not going to make us better. It's going to make us worse. It's going to get us to a point where, we are consistently moving backwards and we don't understand why. And so anyway, give me 1 second here. I am going to reopen the Facebook live feed because we lost it. So give me 1 second here. I tell you, this cell phone technology is something else. Okay, so you guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell people to refresh the page. Okay, so if you're watching on Facebook, just know that this is me broadcasting from 2 separate locations. So you're actually getting the continuous video, so you get to see all the stuff that happens, sort of off book. But anyway, one thing I'll say is, and I had a couple thoughts that kind of went through my head as I was watching this interview. When you talk about HBCUs, I think that what Wendy said about, historically white universities and all that, those are obviously a very primitive statement. It was incorrect. Black people do need our own spaces. We need our own opportunities to be educated. And I think HBCUs do a lot of that. I think that when you have celebrities who give lots of money, like Dr. Dre, I was real hard on Dr. Dre because he gave all that money to USC, but didn't give any money to HBCUs. And I think that that's just really ridiculous. Really very coonish kind of thinking, because basically, you're giving money to people who don't need it. You're giving money to these big white universities that don't need your money, that aren't, I went to visit USC to, there's a young lady I mentor who attends school there. And I remember just being just marveled and fascinated by how big and majestic this campus was. And they were doing so much construction because most universities, I guarantee you that if you live in any city in America and you have a major university there, I guarantee you that they're doing construction right now. I guarantee you that they're buying entire city blocks right now because universities are flush with cash. Why are they flush with cash? Because they're overcharging people for education. They're charging them way too much money, and ultimately what it's doing is it's causing people to go deep in debt to finance the expansion of the educational empires. And so HBCUs, to some extent, to a point, are kind of caught in the middle of that. I see HBCUs as these interesting places that do a lot of good for the world. I think they deserve our donations. I give to their HBCUs. I give to on a regular basis. I think that if I have a child and I'm sending my child to college, I'm gonna pick Spelman over Harvard or Yale or any other school for a young black woman because I feel like Spelman's better at educating black women than Harvard, Yale, and these other white schools. At the same time, what I also see is HBCUs kind of being a part of this crazy expensive arms race that's occurring on these university campuses where the tuition is getting insane. People can't afford it anymore. Who can afford to spend $50,000 a year going to school? And then who can afford to spend $50,000 a year getting an education that won't even get you the job that you're looking for? And on top of that, what's so ironic is that, and Umar Johnson actually made this point. There's another person that doesn't. I don't think Umar likes me at all, but I don't got no issue with him at all. I don't take his stuff personally. But Umar made a good point. He said that HBCUs were created to teach black people to go work for white people. If you look at the history of some of these schools, you'll see that these schools were named after white people. Howard University was named after a white guy who was in the military, who did some horrible things to the Native Americans, from what I understand. I think his name was John Howard. And so to me, it's kind of like when I look at HBCUs, what I really see is are these places that can be very good in terms of the experience. I think most people I know who had an HBCU experience, they really enjoyed it, but it was a very expensive experience. In many cases, unfortunately, for a lot of the schools, not all of them, but they kind of prepare you to go work for white people, right? So they have these connects with these, corporations that are run by whites where they can go into these corporations and get good jobs, which is a good thing. But again, for black people to really be empowered, we don't need more black people who are enslaved by white supremacist institutions. That's not going to help you fight against these things that you care about now, like police brutality and all that, because these institutions are run by people who think that beating a black man's ass over a traffic stop is okay. They're run by these white folks who think that when a black man gets shot, he must have done something to deserve it because officers can't do anything wrong. They're run by white people who will sit on a jury and of an officer who was accused of killing a black man, and they will acquit him because they believe that officers are good people, fundamentally decent human beings, and that they should be allowed to kind of do whatever they want without being questioned on how they do their job. So when you talk about the way HBCUs are run, there is a tremendous amount of room to critique everything about how things are done. Some HBCUs are brilliant and beautiful, but some HBCUs are bureaucratic messes. Just ridiculous, just absolutely crazy in terms of the decisions that are being made, whether they're being made in the best interest of the students. The conservatism of some of the schools is absolutely repulsive. I used to, back when I was on the plantation, back when I wanted to actually work for somebody, which I don't want to do anymore, but back when I was okay with working for other people, I applied to a couple of HBCUs, and I was trained by some of the best people in the world in my field. Literally, one of the guys that trained me was one of the top 3 in the world in my field. And on top of that, I was the only black man in America to get a PhD in finance in the year 2002. So there was literally no other African American on the planet in that year who got that same degree, because it's very hard to get. And so I remember when I interviewed with some HBCUs, I remember being just shocked by how few African American faculty they had in certain departments. Like in my department, I remember I'm sitting there thinking, man, this is interesting. I've been here and I've interviewed with somebody from Asia, somebody from a brother from Africa, which this is part of the diaspora, but the African American experience is unique. Dr. Claude Anderson told you that. I interviewed with somebody from India. Where the hell are the African American people at? And the one school I remember in particular, they said, we don't have any African American male faculty in our entire business school. And I said, that's very strange because you have a lot of African American male students in your university. So what you're saying is that black people can show up to get the education, to be trained, and to pay their money, but they can't show up to actually get jobs teaching here. And so really, generally speaking, I think that when we defend HBCUs, we also must challenge them to be better and do better. We must also challenge just the learning model in general. I can tell you, as a person, I'm a person who has more education than any human being needs in a lifetime. I was in school from the age of 18 to the age of 31, and then I kept going to school after that. I never stopped studying. I study every day. And one of the things I can tell you very clearly is that you want to think about education in a broader framework. There's education you get. There's training, which is not education. Training means that you're being trained, you're being taught to serve somebody else most of the time. Sometimes you're being taught to serve yourself, but a lot of times you're being taught to serve somebody else. So as the brother in Hidden Colors 4 stated, I'm in Hidden Colors 4, but the other actors were brilliant. One of the brothers actually stated very clearly, he said, somebody who cares about you will educate you. Somebody who wants to control you will train you. And a lot of HBCUs believe that the pathway for success for a black person is to be trained to go work for a white person, and that doesn't empower you. And then what's even worse is that you get out of school and you got this degree and you're going into this economy and you haven't been taught to do the things that you really need to do to survive, which is the ability to create your own job. And so then you're mad because you're like, wait a minute, I spent $200,000 going to this school, and I should have a job now. I should be doing well. How am I going to pay back this $200,000 when I'm only making $2,000 a month? You're not. You're not going to. You're going to do like the average millennial, and you're going to die in debt. The average millennial. This is the first generation in American history where the average millennial is expected to die in debt. They're expected to die in debt. And so I think that, I think, and this just going back to Wendy and Roland's conversation. And again, I told you, I know both of them. I know them very well. I've been working with them for many years. And also one of my first major CNN appearances in 2006 on one of the shows. The show's not on anymore, but I think it was replaced by Anderson Cooper actually. On the show, maybe Paula Zahn, that was her name, Paula Zahn. Roland and Wendy were the other two guests on the show. So it was me, Roland, and Wendy. And I remember, we were sitting there. I remember Wendy came in and she had a big fur coat and she was looking real majestic, and I had been on Wendy's show one time at that point. I was going to be on there a few more times later. And then I remember Roland was there, and Roland did a lot of talking. And I remember thinking, wow, this guy talks a lot. But, at the same time, I didn't care. I mean, it wasn't as if he didn't know what he was talking about, but I kind of felt like, I kind of wondered, I said, is he trying to get attention? Like, what's going on? And so through the years, Roland and I have been friends, but I don't really think that we're the best of buddies. I don't think that I think there's something about me that he doesn't like, which is fine. I mean, because a lot of people get upset if you say anything that's even remotely not, complimentary, but I'll tell you the truth. If you critique me, if it's right, I'll think about it. Mark Lamont Hill criticizes me all the time, and sometimes I'll be like, okay, maybe he's right about that. Maybe I need to think about that. But I think when you get to the point where you're comfortable with who you are, you know that you're not perfect. You know that you don't have to make the world think you're perfect in order for you to be okay, in order for you to be good enough. And so if you see my imperfection, if you see things about me that you think are just flawed or wrong or ridiculous or whatever, I mean, you're not surprising me, because I never in life ever thought that my goal was to convince you that I'm perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. I really want to be like you in the sense of helping you understand that you ain't got to be perfect to go out here and fight and to do what you believe in. And so, when you talk about education, now this ain't all about Wendy, just about Roland. I think Roland and Wendy did a good job. I think Roland did a great job of educating on Black history. A lot of things he said should be things that everybody knows. I'm stunned that he was able to say some of these things and have people in the audience like clapping out of surprise, like they didn't know what Black people have gone through. But maybe that's what's necessary. I feel like with Wendy. I felt like with Wendy when she went to television, I had a long talk with Wendy right before she went to TV. We sat there and we did an interview, and her interviews are always great. And the best conversations happen during the commercial breaks. And I remember saying to Wendy, asking her about TV, so what's it going to be like? Are you ready for mainstream? You sure they're going to accept you? And she was ready to go. But remember thinking, I wonder if this is going to work out. And then number two, I kind of felt kind of sad that she lost her soul. Like I felt like not sold her soul, but kind of became this sort of mainstream daytime TV thing or whatever, and I don't really know what value is added from these conversations she has every day about what Kim Kardashian wore this weekend, and I would hope that Wendy would also join in the movement, by black people, black celebrities around the world who are actually trying to really do something in this world. And Roland's one of those people. Roland's one of those people. I'm glad she had a black man on the show to come in and talk about black people stuff. She should do that on a regular basis. I'm not that guy. Roland's probably better than me because Roland, I think, wants to be mainstream. He wants to be kind of in front of everybody, white, black, everything else. I don't do so well trying to convince white people to understand my point of view as a black man. Not because I don't like them, but because I become very frustrated when I have to somehow cater to your lack of understanding of what we're going through. I can't really bend and cater to your ignorance, and so I enjoy talking to black people who kind of get it already, or who say I want to get it, so help me get it a little bit more. Or black people who are independent minded. If you're independent in the sense of you're thinking about building your own, then I'm good with that. But if you're thinking about trying to get white people to accept us or to let us in, I'm not that guy. I'm not the integrationist because we don't need more integration. One movie that we're making that's coming out this fall is called Disintegration, DISS dash integration. And it's all about kind of saying, what did integration really do for you other than make you more dependent on white people in order to get what you need? Integration might have done a few good things in terms of temporarily increasing your quality of life, but it's almost like you it's almost like having financial problems and having somebody tell you that the way to solve your financial problems is to borrow some money from them. Like, oh, just come to my house and you can borrow. I'll give you some money. I'll give you some charity. I'll give you charity. I'll give you a loan. I'll give you a job. White people don't really make capital available for you to build your own business. They won't give you the knowledge to build your own industry, but they'll always give you a job. White people will always give you a damn job because and it's not true integration in the sense of integration being a partnership. It is subservient integration where you're being brought into their institution to be subordinate to them, right? So it's like the difference between two football teams playing each other on neutral territory with neutral referees versus the other team saying, we want you to come to our city, play on our field, use our refs, our equipment, our fans, our businesses will be set up to make money from the event. And you just show up so we can use you as a prop, so you can help us achieve our agenda because we need to have a team to play against so that we will have the ability to make money. Do you understand? So what you want to do is you want to create scenarios where they're going to come to your territory. Like I'll tell you this, when I go to LA now, and I had to change this because I realized that when I would go to Los Angeles, a lot of people would want to talk to me about the movies we're making and all that, and I would end up going all over the place, and my whole day would get ate up because I would be out here driving to this place and driving to that place. And one day it just hit me. I think my brother said this. My brother, he runs a speakers bureau called Great Black Speakers, by the way. His name's Lawrence. And he said, why don't you have people just come to you? And I said, that's true. I can save so much time by having people just come to me. So I would tell people, if you really want to meet with me, here's where I'm at. Come on by. And that kind of flips everything. Instead of me spending time and money going to see them, they're spending time and money showing me that they're serious about wanting to work with me. The people that aren't serious don't make the time, right? The people that are, they come out to where you're at. You eat we're eating whatever I chose to eat. We're spending as much time as I want to spend. All that stuff. And so, I think that when it comes to business, that's what you got to understand is that there's a difference between integration that is subordinate and subservient versus integration that is built on true equality. True equality, is deeper than what you think it is. It ain't. Who gives a shit if you can go eat at somebody's lunch counter and sit there and give them your money every day? I mean, that doesn't make you equal. That makes you stupid. That's not equality. Really, if think about that. I remember I had friends like that. I had a friend one time who tried to convince me that I could be cool and be down with him. But I had to give him money. I had to let him come to my house and eat all the food and do all these things so that he would like me, so that he would want to hang out with me because he was one of the coolest kids in school. And one day it kind of hit me hanging with this dude is not really making my life better. It does, it might make me feel better about myself because my self-esteem was low, but it doesn't actually help me. He's actually milking me. He's milking the fact that I have low self-esteem. And after a while, I realized, I said, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. So that's what white people do. They white racists, we're racist white people, white supremacists. That's what they do. They milk you for your low self-esteem. They know you want to be down, you want to be connected, you want to be a part of their institution because you ain't got nothing of your own. You don't believe you can build nothing of your own. You don't think that what you build is as worthy as what they've built. So you want to be down. So as a result, you come in there with your tail between your legs. You take any salary they pay you. You let them slap you around like a little bitch, and then you do everything in your power to keep them from getting mad at you, so that you can get that corner office and get this false validation on this thing that's really truly artificial, totally made up, that somehow makes you feel better. Because why? At the very beginning, when you were born, you truly believed that you were nobody, and the only way you could actually become somebody in this racist society is by getting white people to think that you can almost be kind of like them. That's what happens. So let me. I saw a question. Derek Lane says, when you're articulate and a go-getter, you're a threat, and they find a reason to let you go. And that's true. And that's what you have to make people understand. And it's not because they're trying to be bad people. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes it's because they see you as competition. And competition means that if there's one piece of cake on the table, and I feel like I need to eat that whole piece of cake, and you're trying to eat half the cake or the whole cake yourself, why would I want you at the table with me? Why would I want you at the table if there's one cake and you're trying to eat as much as me? No, no, maybe you can have the scraps. Maybe you can have what I have left over if I'm not hungry no more. But if I really want that cake, no, you can't have the cake. Especially you come up in here begging. You come up in here begging, you subordinate, I'm going to be like, get the hell out. But if you come in empowered, then I realize I might have to share with you in order for us to have a relationship. And empowerment means having know-how, true knowledge, true skill. Knowledge is not taught in universities half the damn time. Universities give you indoctrination a lot of times, unfortunately. They kind of train you to fit in with a white supremacist economic system, which for black people can just be absolute social, psychological, economic, and political suicide. Um, they don't, we usually go into the economic system with all the skills, all the wrong skills. We have a lot of kids, unfortunately, across this country who reach the age of 18. There's 157,600 hours that you live on this earth between the time you're born and the time you turn 18. So you have all that time, and you reach the age of 18. You can't read, you can't write, you can't do math, but somehow you have memorized every song on the radio, or somehow you know all the new dances, you know all the sports channels, and who the best, how many points LeBron scored last night. You can recite all that to me in a second, but you can't read because somehow somebody told you got a learning disability, even though you're showing intelligence in almost every dimension of your life, except for in the areas that really matter. And I think that that's something we should be concerned about. We can't stop it for everybody. There's going to be ignorance everywhere. Coonery is strong. Coonery is real. Coonery is systematically taught to black children, but you don't have to teach your kids this. And what has to occur for black people is we must develop institutions, broad institutions that allow us to make sure truth is taught to these kids. So with these athletes, I saw LeBron get out there with Chris Paul and Carmelo Anthony and I think it was Dwayne Wade on the ESPYs, man, and just said, made some real strong statements about doing better, about athletes going back to their communities and building. Man, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. And again, that's what makes me like LeBron. I really like that guy. I mean, I'm sorry, everybody hating on him or whatever. I said, no, he seems like a good dude. And I said this not about him last year or 2 years ago. I said this about him in 2003 when he was when his brother was in high school, and I saw him play. And if you ever played basketball, one thing you know about basketball is that you can tell a dude's personality by how he plays. An asshole in life plays like an asshole on the court. They come down the court, or they come, with the ball, and they want to keep the ball the whole time, and they take stupid shots, and every time you give them the ball, you ain't gonna get it back because they're not thinking about nothing else except getting the attention on themselves. You got a lot of assholes like that. You got a lot of asses in black leadership like that who are like, give me the ball, I don't want to pass it to nobody, I'm the man, I want to score all the points because I want to get all the credit, I want all the girls and all that. These are people, in my opinion, who haven't elevated in terms of in terms of who they are as a person. They're still trying to fulfill something, a need for attention, a need for validation, a need for fame or whatever it is, some internal need causes them to act like a jerk. But then you have guys that play like good dudes. They go out there and they could score the point, but they'd rather give you the ball than take it themselves. Or they could dominate the game, but they pass it around. And LeBron's that kind of guy. Like, I remember watching him play, and I said he plays like he's a decent person because he seems to want to make his teammates better. And he wants his teammates to feel as good about their ability as he feels about himself. And I love that. I love that, about him. And everything he's done as a player to this point has really kind of confirmed that to me. So to see him as a leader in the sports world really makes me say that if the right person is in LeBron's ear, in fact, I wish LeBron was listening to us talk right now. If you know him, please send him this video. If the right person's in LeBron's ear, LeBron could be the next Jim Brown. And now, will he be the next Muhammad Ali? I don't know. That's a little bit of a different style, but he could be the next Jim Brown. He shows that respect. When I saw him with Jim Brown, he did this and gave him his respect. He's with Bill Russell. He gave him his respect. And these are the OGs. These are the original black men. These are the real black men of sports who really truly understood the power of the athlete and the fact that you're an elected delegate of your community. You're not sent up there to act like a coon and to just sell out to white people until you die. That's not why people lifted you up. Just because your people have somehow been hypnotized by ignorance doesn't mean you have to be. And so, LeBron understands this, and Jordan didn't get it. Kobe didn't get it. A lot of these guys didn't get it, but I think LeBron gets it. And the fact that so many guys look up to him, I think that's the best thing to ever happen in the history of sports. In fact, I wish he could have got that little guy Steph Curry up there with him. That would have been cool too, because I think both of those guys are amazing, and I think they should partner together. I know they're competitors right now, so maybe that wouldn't work. But anyway. By the way, if you like what you're hearing, I hope you'll hit the share button and share this to your personal Facebook page or your social media. Each one teach one. So every time I'm talking, I want you to share. Also at theblackbusinessschool.com, which you can join for free. We have actual hardcore business lessons where you can learn, and this is at a rate that's much cheaper than any university out here, and it's good stuff. And one of our requirements for our faculty is that we like for them to be black so they understand the black experience, and also we like for them to understand the black experience. How about that? But everybody in there is black. Also, and a lot of the universities, unfortunately, you might never have a black professor. I've never had a black teacher ever in my life. Not since I started college. I had a black teacher, one in high school for history, social studies, something like that, and another one in middle school, and another one in elementary school. But I all through I was in school in college or higher education from age 18 to age 31. That's when I was like studying and getting my PhD. Never had a single black professor. But the two that I'd met who weren't teaching me, but I knew them, Dr. Tommy Whitler and Dr. Bennett. He's at Ohio State. I should know his name, but his name escapes me right now. But these two guys actually mentored the hell out of me, and they were the only black professors in the entire business school. Out of 100 faculty, they were the one black person. And that's why I feel so bad that his name, the brother from Ohio State, it isn't coming to me. I'm going to look it up and make sure I pay homage to him because I feel so bad for not remembering this. But anyway, so the Black Business School, that's what we have. We have black professors who have done it, who have experience in what they do, and they're not going to charge you $50,000 a year like a university will. They'll charge you like $100 a month or something like that. And this is information that teaches you how to build. We assume that you're there because you want to build something for your family. We assume that you're there because you want to build a legacy, that you want to, be an empire holder, have a piece of an empire. The world is run by empires. America has power because America is an empire. The British Empire had power because they thought in terms of conquest. In their mind, the idea of just being conquered and controlled by somebody else was just not even part of their vocabulary. It wasn't something they could even imagine for themselves. And so the Chinese right now, the Chinese are thinking in terms of empire. You're not going to go up into China and control the Chinese. They're like, no, we stick together and we will kick you in the ass. And they're not going to go blow you up and kill you. They're not going to send warships to your coast. But what the Chinese will do is they have very polite, very heavy-handed diplomacy with the rest of the world, economic diplomacy. So, for example, let's say that, let's say that you are from, Switzerland, and you you offend the Chinese. You say, the Chinese need to represent human rights better. Their human rights violations are atrocious, and it's an absolute repulsive that the Chinese would can get away with this, right? So let's say you say that because you believe that that's right. Well, the Chinese, what they will do is they will smile and they'll say, okay, thank you for your opinion. And then they're going to go back home. And then next thing you know, the wheat shipments that you thought your country was going to receive from China, they suddenly stop. Or the goods that you thought you were going to sell in China, you selling coconut or whatever, suddenly, you have a tariff, what they call a tariff on your stuff, where you can't move units in China no more. Or the foreign aid that you were receiving, the money they were going to give you for something else, suddenly something has come up and they can't do it anymore. And they use that as a tool for power. They understand, unlike any other country in the world, they understand economic power. And they understand, like, we ain't got to go fight you in a war to make our point, because war is ugly. War is destructive. War kills people. It's a horrible thing. They're just like, no, we're just going to keep our money, and we're going to control you with our money. So black people, if you want to win, if you want to rebel, if you want to fight back, control people with your money. You got 1.1 trillion in spending power. Go ahead and pay the black tax. What's the black tax? I talked about the black tax earlier. I'm going to talk about it a lot because I want you to understand what it is. The black tax kind of means having a commitment to developing your community by being willing to make tiny sacrifices that build. So tiny sacrifices might be this. If you are tipping somebody at a restaurant and they give you good service, for me, if the person's white, I give them 15%. If they're black, usually I'll give them 20-25%. Why? Well, because when I'm giving money to that black man or that black woman, I know that money's going to my community. But I have to learn how to love my people enough to care about doing that, or to feel like that's an investment and not a giveaway, not a loss for me. It's a win for all of us. Because here's how a dollar works. Here's how money works. Look, if I got this dollar, I'll pull out a dollar out of my wallet. So if I got a dollar bill and I go spend that dollar with Walmart, here's what that dollar's worth. This dollar's worth $1, right? That's because that's what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get $1 worth of stuff. But here's the funny thing about a dollar. Dollars are like recyclable goods. Dollars don't disappear just because you spent it. Dollars just change hands. So if I spend money with this person over here, he's gonna take that dollar. The dollar's gonna be spent with somebody else and somebody else. So let's say that instead, so if I give it to Walmart, it's worth $1. Walmart's going to take that money. They're not going to give it back. They build wealth. They think about wealth building. They think about empire building. They ain't think about giving the money, but right back to your ass. They're not doing that. Now, imagine if I go and I find other black people who think like me, who believe in cooperative economics, who are caught up in all of this. They understand what you and I are talking about right now. I give them this dollar. What are they going to do with it? Are they going to give it away? No, they're probably going to take that dollar and give it to another black person. And then that person is going to give it to another black person and another black person. So let's say that there's like 4 people, and let's say eventually the dollar disappears. So the dollar goes through 4 or 5 people who've all got the pleasure of spending that dollar. Then that dollar is not worth $1 anymore. That dollar has become $4 or $5. You see what I mean? So if I spend it, you spend it, the next person spends it, the next person, and the next person. That dollar's been multiplied 5 times. That dollar has been recycled. So rather than us giving the dollar away and then having to go beg white folks to get another dollar to replace it, that dollar becomes worth 5 times more than what it was. So it's no different from going in your refrigerator and somebody explaining to you how you could, you're hungry, you're starving, you're begging for food because you keep running out of food. What if somebody came in and said, I can take your food and multiply it by 5? I can do a little mixing up, and you will have 5 times more food. That's going to make your life better because you don't have to keep going out begging for more food. You're not going to be as hungry. You're going to be full because you're going to get to eat 5 times if you want to, as opposed to just eating once. So that means that the black tax would say that that when I spend money, I'm going to be willing to pay a little more to keep that dollar in my community, because that dollar is going to multiply if it's among my people. So instead of that dollar being worth $1, it's going to be worth $5. So that means that if I have a choice, I can buy my socks at Walmart for $10, or I can buy my socks with the sister for, who runs the black shop in the hood. I can buy the socks from her for $12. Well, I'm going to spend the $12 because I know that because my dollars are worth 5 times more, that extra 20% that I'm spending is going to translate into 500% of additional value for the black community. But the thing is that all these ideas, cooperative economics must start with a foundation of love. You must, before you begin to learn economic theory, before you begin to learn asset pricing, before you begin to learn how to make money or how to invest and all these things we teach in the Black Business School, you must begin with the idea that I love myself and I love you too. Because you're black, I don't just love you. I love your children. I love I love your cousin. I love your wife, your husband, your family. I love everybody that depends on you too, and I care about them. So if I spend that little bit of extra, I know that because you're going to use this money to take care of those people, that my money has not been a loss. It's been an investment. It has a net benefit, right? It's just like with your kids, right? Think about somebody who loves their kids versus somebody who doesn't love their kids, right? Somebody who doesn't love their kids would never spend money on their children. Why? Because from a financial standpoint, children can be a horrible investment, right? If I give money to my children, shit, they're going to take that money. It ain't never coming back. My kids ain't never going to ever, like most of them don't repay you nothing. And sometimes they ungrateful, right? Anybody who has kids knows what I'm talking about. Raise your hand and testify if you got kids and they drove you crazy. But if you love your kids, then you're going to invest in them because you're not looking at your kids from a financial return standpoint. You're looking at your children as an investment, that their well-being is your well-being, right? So the love must be there for cooperative economics to work. Before you give somebody your money, you have to trust them, and if you love them, that's even better. And so over time, we got to learn how to trust and love each other in order for this to really work. So that's why I call it the black tax, or I call it tithing to your community. If you can tithe to the pastor, then you can tithe to your people. And so think about that every time you spend money. Make sure you keep that in mind. All right. So anyway, I already know that since I put this video up, I have no doubt in my mind that Roland Martin is probably going to watch it. And I'll probably get some angry text from the brother. That's what he does when he gets mad. He'll send me these long text messages like, well, what you said was wrong because blah, blah. And I'm just like, come on, man. Let's just be friends. But I'll say, I'm going to say this real clear and make it just crystal clear. I love Roland Martin. I love Wendy Williams. I think they are the best in the game at what they do. I think the world wouldn't be the same without either one of them, and I respect them immensely. Even if I critique you, that don't mean I can't think that what you're doing is great. The other thing too, by the way, if you haven't picked up a free copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net, not .com, .net. You can get a free e-copy of the book. If you're interested in our wealth building program for children, you can go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. It's 4 words, blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. It's a very popular program. Everybody loves it. It's going really well. And I think that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and get to bed. I shouldn't even be up this late. If you're in Cleveland, I hope you'll come out to the Convention of the Oppressed. I speak tomorrow with Malik Shabazz, the head of the new Black Panther Party. I love what Malik is doing. I like independent Black people. To me, the great challenge in life. Here's the great challenge in life. To me, I feel like it's easy to get ahead by kissing a white man's ass. I really believe, see, that's the thing. Our ancestors weren't allowed to do that. No matter how much ass they kissed, white people still rejected them, right? For us, they're like, look, we'll let you in. Just bow. Just bow to us. Just be what we need you to be, right? Well, I would say that that's easy. If you tell me that you have the corner office at a big corporation and you did that because you've been cooning for 20 years, I'm not impressed with that. Anybody can be a slave. To me, the real challenge is figuring out if you know how to be free. If you can get on here, if you can get out in this world and you can talk crazy shit about white folks and say what you want to say and do what you want to do and know that your bills still going to be paid, your kids are still going to be fed because your skills are so dope that they can't stop you. Your education, your knowledge level is so strong they can't get you. Your self-esteem is so intact that they can't say nothing to even bother you. That's when, if you're a man, that's when you get to be a real man. So I'm telling young black men, when you come talk to me, when brothers come talk to me, my challenge is one based on manhood. That is, in case you ever want to know why I work with Damon Dash, is as crazy as Damon could be, is because I see, okay, this guy respects manhood. He wants to be a man in this world, So I want young men to be men, so my daughters will have real men to marry and not some of these little punk sissy boys out here. And then I want black women to have the strength that they deserve. I mean, we know black women have held it down real well, and we know black women are extraordinary, but they ain't perfect. I mean, I think the ability to be self-critical is very important for everybody. Men and women. I don't see that enough. I see every time on my page I'll put something up that where I'll say something like, if you're a woman, you should, consider this if you pick a man because, this and this, because if a man does this wrong, then it's going to hurt you. And then I'll hear some brothers that are like, well, what about the women? Like, why aren't you criticizing the women? You don't criticize the women. So let's say then I go back and I'll say, okay, well, for women, if you don't respect men, then don't expect a man to respect you, or something like that. And then I'll hear from women, they'll be like, Dr. Boyce, why don't you criticize the men? You don't say nothing about the men. I'm like, well, maybe if you just took time and just thought about working on yourself, maybe you would have what you want. Maybe you could be, if you're looking for partnerships or whatever in life, maybe you could be a better partner if you would focus on being the best partner you could be, instead of thinking that the whole world is responsible for whatever it is that you haven't gotten, that you don't, that you weren't, qualified to obtain. I just really believe that element of personal responsibility is critically important. So hold yourself accountable, and understand that just because you criticize yourself don't mean you're not worthy. It means that you're growing and you're going to confront. You don't walk away. We actually have a class that I teach on this topic of setting goals, overcoming obstacles. I think you might like it. It's at blackkeystogreatness.com. That's blackkeystogreatness.com. If you go to there, the first month is actually free, so you can sign up for free, see if you like it. But in blackkeystogreatness.com, one of the things we do talk about is, you don't run away from your weaknesses, you run toward them. And because your weaknesses don't define you. Your weaknesses don't define what you're capable of becoming. They might only define where you are right now or the mistakes that you made to this point. But if you're trying to go to another level, you got to commit. You got to just, first of all, start off by admitting what I'm doing so far ain't working. So if your goal is to go to another level in terms of your relationships, first you got to accept the fact that you're kind of screwed up. That you haven't gotten what you wanted because you probably did some stuff wrong. If you're trying to go to another level in business, I'm dealing with this right now. I've been talking to my leadership coach, and I've been like, you know what? I'm finding that I have to admit that there are some things that I'm just not that good at. Things I need to get better at. Things and it was hard. It was painful, because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be a successful man, right? But when I thought about what I really want to accomplish out of my life, and if I live long enough, I'm gonna go for it all. I was like, man, like what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it, ain't gonna work. And it's hard to kind of flip that and shift that because you got to go through all these emotional, hula hoops. But once you go through it and you go through that process and realize that you're always a growing human being, then you can take your game to the next level. So everybody, listening, what I want you to do is I want you to just challenge yourself, say to yourself, I'm gonna take my game to the next level. Whatever it is, whatever that might be. So always go to the next level. That's what makes life fun. All right, I'm gonna quit talking. I get on here and I just start having fun. Anyway, I hope you guys will check out some of those classes that I mentioned to you. I think you're gonna really enjoy them. And at the very least, get your free e-copy of the book. And I'll see you guys soon. So take care. Talk to you soon. Peace.